Welcome back to another Lawn Care Millionaire video. I am sitting down with Naylor. Once again, we are recording several things today to put out over the course of time here. So what we're going to be talking about today is his journey, starting his business, all of the motivations that went into that, and the biggest hurdles that he has overcome, and kind of the different attitudes and strategies he's had to employ to get to where he is today. So Naylor, thanks so much for taking time out of a busy summer to talk to us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
So a lot of entrepreneurs, like, it was either something they never thought about doing. They, grew up always, working a job. And then one day they just realized like this was something they had to do. And other people like knew from the time they were 5, they were like selling stuff to their neighbors and like just
Right,
knew this was going to be what they did. So
right.
did you fall in one of those camps or somewhere in the middle? What's kind of your story there?
I would say as far as that goes, is somewhere in the middle. Like I don't remember like, being like that when I was 5 or 10 or 15 or anything like that. But I do know that I've always been very resourceful, which has helped me right to this very day. Like I've always been good at making connections with people, building rapport with people, having friendships, and just networking overall, and then utilizing all of that. You know what I mean? It always has come back to help me in some way. So I mean, I've always been able to just see an opportunity and seize the moment. Like for example, just one quick example. When I got my license, or was about to, when I was approaching the age, right, to get your permit and your license, kids are already thinking or whatever, and I'm like, man, not only do I want my license, but what am I going to drive? Like, I don't want to drive my mom's car. Like all my, not all, but some of my friends, some of the cool kids, have their own cars somehow or another. They got a car or whatever, whether their mom got it for them, mom or dad, or somehow they were able to get themselves. But I'm like, man, I want to have a vehicle of some sort. That would be sweet. And I saw an opportunity, and I grabbed it by the reins. And it was basically a friend of my mom's, that I just overheard them talking about how they were going to get another vehicle, and they had a vehicle that, like, their original vehicle that had been old, and they just was still good, but they didn't know what to do with it and whatever. So I kind of heard that whole conversation. I was just thinking about, like, I wonder if they would sell it to me at like a really good price or whatever. And that's just probably not something that most like 15 going on 16-year-old kids would think of. You know what I mean? I'm sure others have and did and will, but that's just part of how my thinking was then. And that's what happened. I ended up saving up a couple $1,000 or whatever it was, working like full time or whatever, or over the summer or whatever it was. I had a bunch of different part-time jobs like any other high school kid. Like not at the same time. I mean, like just different jobs, one after another. And I saved up enough money, and I bought that used vehicle from them. So that was my first vehicle. So I got my license and I got my vehicle. Like I had it all planned out. I just
Yeah.
figured it out. It's like it's just like whenever I could see something that I really wanted, or like I was able to kind of find a way to get it. So I kind of always had that resourcefulness, and just being creative in that way, and that carried over the years into my adult years in various other ways and examples. But there was a point, I've been in retail management my whole life. Like that was my career, that was my job. Like I just started it in college, and I worked my way up quickly into the management team. And I just was in retail management for 15 plus years, managing, being a assistant manager, store manager, all walks of life for management. Managing, J.C. Penney was the last company I was at. Before that, I was at Toys R Us, and so all these big box stores. I mean, I started at the Gap. Those are a lot smaller stores, but they had bigger ones in some locations that I was at too. But it's not like a department store or anything like that. So I mean, I started there and kind of worked my way up. But so that was kind of my life. But for the longest time, I always said to myself, as much as I enjoyed retail at that time because I was single and it was like whatever, it was easy for me. I had a good memory. I had leadership skills. I was just like, rocking and rolling. And, I was that personable guy, hanging out with customers, solving problems. People flip out and I come over and, hey, we're all smiling. I'm sorry, we'll work it out, stuff like that. I was able to calm people down. And so there's a lot of those kind of things that made it enjoyable and easy for me in retail management. But as we know, times have changed, and with online businesses and e-commerce and Amazon and all that, made it a lot harder for the brick and mortar stores to like exist and be relevant. So with that started like, like before I've been in lawn care for 7 years. I started part-time 7 years ago, so 6 years full-time, but 7 years total. And I was in, so 7 years ago, I was still in retail management my last year. So, I mean, that's when 7 years ago, that's when it got really bad. But years before that, maybe 10 years, was when it started getting bad, where it was like, okay, now we're going to open up on midnight on Thanksgiving, and then it was like 10 o'clock on Thanksgiving. Then it was like 6 or whatever. It just got
Now
earlier
we're
and
just open
earlier.
on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's just open on things. So I saw the writing on the wall, and in amidst all of that, all of my fun, single, like whatever, I can just bang this out. I met my wife, we got married, had kids, settled down, tried to have a life, and it's like retail was going this way, and my life was going this way, and it's kind of like a single man and woman's game. Like, I'm not saying that you can't be successful in retail management if you have a family, but you have to find the right company, the right store. You have to have the right family. Like, it's a lot of balancing you have to do. And it just wasn't for me. That just wasn't my thing. And I guess maybe ultimately because of this, because I had that entrepreneurship kind of inside me, and it just was kind of dormant and all this time. And I was just kind of able to kind of get through the years in retail management. But towards the middle of that, and I with my family and everything, I was just like, this is just not really fun anymore. It's not really working out. I don't think I can do this forever. Like, this is just crazy. Like, my quality of life is awful. I just work all the time and never get to see my children as babies and walking and this and that. And it was getting really stressful for me as well as for my wife. I'm sure she tried to take it well, but I mean, I can only imagine. So, but during that time, I thought about ways out. Like, oh man, maybe I could start this business, start that business. Maybe I could be a personal trainer and then open up a gym. And because I've always loved fitness and all that. So, I mean, I've had several different like entrepreneur type ideas, not like it was like some brand new idea I invented, but just like me going on my own to start my own business. Um, so that I
So
kind of had those
when you
ideas.
started looking for a way out, when your life wasn't matching the demands of your job anymore,
Right.
the solution wasn't to look for another job. It was, how can I build something that will
Yes.
accommodate my life?
Yes. Yes. It wasn't because, I mean, so I had gone to a couple of companies that, towards the end, I went to like, I was kind of at every company for several years. I was at the Gap for probably like 5 years, and then another company for 5 years, so it wasn't like I worked for a ton, but every time I went to another company, it was because I was looking for like something better to try and you know, like help my life, like solve my life. Like, I met my wife when I was working at the Gap. So that first 5 years towards the end is when I met her. And like, we got married and had our first child and our daughter, and things just started to spiral downhill from there. And then I started looking for other options from the Gap, like thinking that that was the problem, thinking that like the company structure and environment and all the pressure they put on you and everything to make sales and all that, thinking that that was the problem. And you get that kind of like newlywed type thing. You get all excited, you work for a new company, you're in that training program, you learn everything and all that, and then kind of like all of that goes away, and then you kind of get all like stressed out all over again. So after doing that several times, I realized that like it wasn't the companies, it was retail as a whole. Like it just wasn't for me to be stuck with horrible bosses, which was always the worst thing that happened to me. Like, stuck with a horrible boss that just treated me like garbage, and I was like the nicest person, that was the hardest worker, and I would always get stuck with these horrible leaders. And so that was another huge thing. And I'm like, man, I just want to do my own thing. I excelled when I was a store manager because then I was the boss, but boss's boss. I still had a district manager, and sometimes I had bad ones, sometimes I had good ones. So, you're still kind of always stuck in that situation. So ultimately, I just knew that I needed to kind of work for myself, like do my own thing and be my own boss in some way, form, or fashion. So yeah, to your point, my way out was not like, like another job or another career move, working for another boss or something. It was, what can I do that's going to support my family and bring joy and happiness to my life? So that's where lawn care came, because I was one of those.
How how did
Yeah,
you end up at lawn care?
yeah, I was one of those homeowners that was like the best looking yard on the block, and my all the moms would ask my wife, like all the other wives would ask my wife like for tips, to give their husbands for their lawns and stuff. I was that guy. I just kind of was like always obsessed with grass and would do a lot of research and try every little trick and whatever little gadget and gizmos that they sell at Lowe's and Home Depot and every other hardware store, and anything and everything I could try and play around with to get grass to grow and this and that and fertilizer and weed control and soil and all that stuff. Like I just kind of went all out and was like that lawn guy that just was obsessed with it. So I mean, I always just enjoyed it, and it brought joy to me. I loved, push mowing my yard and making nice stripes. And before that was even like a thing, right? Like I'm like, this is like 20 years ago now, and I'm just like push mowing my yard, making them stripes, diagonals, checkerboard, and I'm like, man, this is sweet. Like I mean, some homeowners don't even know how to stripe. They just like like mowing in circles and stuff. I don't know if that's you. I don't want to be no offense, but I
I've
mean
worked with
like,
lawn care people for years now, and I do not know how to stripe.
oh man. So I mean, like, that just tells you that I guess I already was kind of like natural, like wanted to be a lawn guy because I was just like that guy on my own yard. So that's kind of like that was where it kind of evolved from there, because I already had that foundation of enjoying it and learning it from a homeowner perspective. And I just thought like, what would I like? Wouldn't that be awesome if I just like mowed lawns for a living? But I mean, that was like 20 years ago, and that wasn't even a thing. Like there was landscaping companies, and that was it. Like there was no guy with a truck and trailer, that mows your lawn. It was like these big operations, and it was like frowned upon back then. Like if you had someone mowing your lawn, like a company show up with like a massive truck and trailer, and like 8 guys come out and mow your lawn, people were like, "Oh my gosh, oh you're fancy," because you know what I mean. It was like frowned down upon, like so. But then
That
you
was
fast
definitely
forward
how
to
the neighborhood I grew up in was.
yeah, then you fast forward to now, and it's frowned upon to not have a lawn care service. Like, oh, you don't have someone mowing your lawn? Like, what's up with that? I mean, now, right? This is in 2020, you've got people cleaning your house, taking care of your lawn. I mean, those are just regular monthly things that are like common now. To not have to worry about cleaning your house and to not have to worry about mowing your lawn or taking care of any landscaping, trimming your shrubs, putting down fresh mulch, killing the weeds, fertilizing, all that stuff has all now been like, it's become like a commodity now for everyone. And it wasn't like that 20 years ago. So I kind of like, I thought about it and was like, this would be awesome. And then like, I just let it die because I didn't think it was possible. I kind of dabbled with it, created like it wasn't even clean cut lawn care. I don't remember what the name of my business was at that time, but I just came up with a name, made some business cards like on a computer program I found, and got like some card paper from Staples and put it in the printer, and perforate them all and had these cards, and then nothing ever happened because it just was one of those things where I just psyched myself out. I'm like, I just got to stick with retail or whatever. This is not going to work. But in the background, I guess the wheels kept, spinning, right? And that's kind of like however many years later, we moved from where we lived to where we live now. We lived up in New York, not New York City, like more upstate New York, like Albany area. We lived up around there, and then we moved down to Virginia, which is where we live now. So for one, the mowing season's longer than in New York because it's warmer for a longer time. We have all 4 seasons versus just 2 in New York. It's like hot and cold, and that's it. Summer, winter, bam, that's it. So we love New York. We're New Yorkers by, by heart and all that, but we love being outside. So Virginia is a lot more conducive for being outside. We can have all four seasons and just hang out and have a good time. So, but also from a lawn care perspective, there's a lot more opportunity. So that started making me think a lot more. Again, like it kind of came back up in my brain again about lawn care, and I was really getting stressed out with retail at that point. Like I was working at JCPenney at that point, and the company had just gone like through a whole big thing, and they're transitioning into a whole new look, and then it tanked, and they got rid of their CEO, and then they went back to the old ways, and it was just all this craziness. And I was caught up in all that drama, and it was just really stressful. And then it was like all about coming back on the managers, and we have to make all these numbers, and Amazon's killing everything, and no one's coming in the stores to buy anything anymore, all this craziness. So it was really driving me down. And then just remembering like, hey, maybe I can get back into lawn care. And it all was from one Facebook post. My wife was on Facebook, like a lot of housewives back in the day, right? I think they're the ones that started Facebook, right? They were on there playing Farmville and doing all this fun stuff. And I had no idea what Facebook was. I mean, I knew what it was, but like I could care less about that at that point. I was so consumed with retail and all that, just trying to like have a life. But she like saw where we lived. They have a Facebook group, and she was like, she saw someone post like their lawnmower broke or something, and they were looking for suggestions for someone to mow their lawn. And my wife knew that I was always thinking about mowing lawns. So she was like, and she knew how stressed out, miserable I was. It was just perfect timing. I still had we moved to Virginia. I brought my good old trusty push mower and my trimmer and hand blower, my homeowner edition stuff. And I just kept it in the garage, just in case we needed it, because we were renting a townhouse because we didn't want to buy a house right off the bat, moving to a new state. So we were just renting a townhouse, and it was already maintained by landscapers. It was like a maintenance-free area. So I didn't mow any lawns. I just watched them and just like lived vicariously through them. And I had all my stuff in storage in my garage, but it was there. So she was like, "Do you want me to respond? That you'll do it." And that is the most critical moment in my life, because if I had said no or hesitate or anything, you and I would not be talking right now. Yeah. I mean, that's how deep it goes. When you look back on all these butterfly effects, I said, okay, why not? So she messaged him, on Facebook, and then he was my first customer. Push mowing is like 10,000 square foot yard. It was like 2-3 hours, and I'm like trimming it, edging it like a homeowner, like a rookie over here. Like I don't know anything about, how to do it professionally. So, but that's what really got it going. And then like, I was like, man, maybe I could try doing this. So I was still working retail, and I was mowing his lawn, and then a neighbor's daughter on the other side of town was looking for someone to mow their lawns. I had to drive like 25 minutes to get to this lady's house just to mow her lawn for like 30 minutes and then drive 30 minutes back. And it was awful profit margin, but it was all about getting into the routine and, just doing it, right? And just like really kind of like figuring it out. And I probably had about 5 or 6 yards that I did part-time during that time frame while still working like 50 to 60 hours in retail management. It's like I would like put the stuff in the back of my Jeep Compass, and I would go to work, bring a change of clothes. And when I could finally like feel like I could leave for the day, like, forget about shift times, like whenever I was like, I gotta go, I gotta leave, I'm done, whatever. I would change in my office, and then I would go down and get my Jeep, and I would go try and knock out some yards. But it took me a couple hours for each yard. So, I mean, I could only really do a couple before dark. So I would try on my like 1 or 2 days off, if I could get 2 days, and we weren't doing something as a family, I would try and mow those lawns then. So that 1 year of part-time really made me realize how much I enjoyed it. One, two, how much I need better equipment. And three, man, if I did this full time, I could really make something of this, So I put in my notice, at JCPenney, and I never looked back ever since. And I just really put my head down. It was right after the holidays, so I had like a couple of months before like the season started to really think about how am I going to do this. I got my business license and registered all that stuff, and sort of created a logo and all this stuff. Just started building my business quickly from scratch, and I'm like, all right, I need a commercial mower, I need a truck, I need a trailer, traded in my Jeep for a pickup truck for a F-150, and borrowed some money from my mother-in-law for a small 5x10 open trailer, and financed or she just bought, and I paid her for my walk behind, my 48-inch for a walk behind that I had, and I had already bought a backpack blower, a commercial backpack blower from that my part time. I saved up, I whatever money I was making was just kind of extra, so I basically was just saving it. And I bought that, started doing some leaf cleanups going into that winter. So I had that going into that. I just needed to get a trimmer, so I got like a commercial trimmer, and then I was good to go because I quickly got about 30 yards my first season, 30 weekly lawns. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this with a push mower. And that's when I just did all that, and I had everything paid off by the end of that season. So it was just, boom, just hit the ground running, never haven't looked back since. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
So once you made that transition from part-time to full-time, and like also the transition from like homeowner equipment to commercial equipment, what were your biggest hurdles in that next year as you were like trying to go truly full-time?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing was, or what, some of the biggest things were, the first year full time, I had no really any extra money. Like all the money went back into the business as well as trying to pay our bills. Also, side note, my wife had a full time job. She had just gotten a full time job a year prior. So had she not had a full time job, I would not have been able to do this because I did not make my yearly salary in the first year of mowing lawns with 30 lawns like that's just, it's not possible. So that allowed me, and I've heard this story from a lot of other people too that had come from similar backgrounds where they were able to kind of ease into the transition because their spouse had a good full-time job, they had health benefits, all that stuff. So it's not like when they quit their full-time job, it didn't just completely like put their whole family at risk. There was still some income from them as well as health insurance and all that. So it allowed them, like myself, to really work on my business and build it from the ground up, and not like do some crazy, not do too many crazy things anyway, but just kind of really focus on the right things. But so I had that to help me. But at the same time, so I wasn't able to really save any kind of money or invest any money. And then that next winter, I worked at Amazon because I had no money saved up for the winter, no work to get through the winter. So I worked at the Amazon fulfillment center, locally here. And that was a crazy experience. And I was like, I will never do this again. I am never going to do this again. This is ridiculous. Like, because then when the season started back up, I started thinking to myself, well, man, I could just keep working at Amazon, like, like nights, like night shifts. And then I could just do, lawn care during the day. My wife's like, are you crazy? Like, when are you going to sleep? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't really figure that out. I could get some sleep in between or whatever. Like, I was just getting crazy thinking about, because I wasn't making enough money with lawn care yet, and I was making a decent amount of money with Amazon. But then I started like doing some, early landscaping type jobs, whether it was mulch, pruning, cleanups or whatever. And like just a couple of jobs in 1 or 2 days, I made the same amount of money. Like I put out estimates and they got approved, for the same amount of money that I made working 45, 50 hours a week at Amazon. I was like, that's just another thing that hit me in the face. Like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, duh. Like, this is why I'm doing this, because I will ultimately be making more money for myself than working for Amazon or at wherever, nothing against that. I mean, not everyone can run their own business. So there's things for everyone. Amazon needs people, obviously, and they're a good company, but it just wasn't my path. And I was starting to get detoured a little bit, right? Sidetracked of these different opportunities. But then I quickly remembered that I can make more money, and this is more worth it. This is more enjoyable for me to do lawn care, / landscaping, than to be working anywhere else. So that kind of got me refocused. So that was a little bit of a challenge there. But the biggest challenge I think that everyone goes through is when we first start out is we try to do a little bit of everything, and we end up being spread super thin, and we're buying this for that and this for that. We're buying tools for one job and we never use it again. And, it becomes like a hodgepodge of, you become a jack of all trades, a master of none, and it's just kind of like, are you even making it? Are you even profiting? You might be making money, but are you really? Like, you're taking money in, but how much at the end of the day, after whatever expenses, do you really have? And you really have to think that stuff through. And there was a story that I heard someone use an example. I don't know if it was a real story or not. I think it was, but they had their lawn care guy was there to like clean their leaves, for the fall. Like, hey, we're here to clean your leaves. It was just one guy. He's like, clean your leaves. All right, thanks. And while he's cleaning the leaves, he's like, oh, it looks like your gutters are full. You want me to clean your gutters? Yeah, how much that be? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Yeah, go ahead, do that. While I'm here, I'll clean gutters. Okay. So now he's got to get a ladder to get up on the roof to clean the gutters. He didn't think like, oh, I just asked if he wants me to clean the gutters, but I didn't have a ladder. So he bought a ladder. So he put the ladder and he gets up there, cleans the gutters. While he's up there, he notices some shingles are missing on the roof. And he's like, oh man, I could probably make some money and fix this guy's shingles. Hey, you want me to fix the shingles while I'm up on your roof? Yeah, that'd be cool. Thanks. How much do you think that'd be? Okay, here's the price. Boom, bam. Okay, great. Well, geez, now I need this stuff to fix these shingles, and I had to go back to the store, get the shingles. Meanwhile, down the street is one guy that is only cleaning up leaves from house to house to house. So in the same amount of time that this one guy is doing leaves, gutter cleaning, fixing a roof, he had to buy a ladder, had to buy stuff to fix the roof. He made money, right? Say, he made probably got the same amount of money in revenue, but the guy that has the same equipment already, cleaning up leaf job after leaf job after leaf job down the street, knocking out house after house after house, same amount of time. Who do you think is going to be paying for drinks at the end of the day? The guy cleaning up the leaves, because he's much more profitable. His profit margin is so high because he's just doing leaves. He's focused on one service, one niche that he has. He already has the equipment for, which the other guy probably had the equipment to clean the leaves too, but he decided to add on all this stuff. So that's not always the best option, to add on all these things, especially if you don't even have the right equipment. If it's a service you want to offer and you kind of put it out there and see how much work you can get, okay, you want to do gutter cleaning, that's fine. Let's see how much work you can get with gutter cleaning, and then get that all lined up and scheduled properly. Get some equipment if you need it, like a ladder or whatever, and then hit it that way, and then continue those services. But don't be like the jack of all trades, master of none. And a lot of times the customers will come out and ask you that. Can you fix this while you're here? Do you do this? Can you do that? And a lot of times we have that yes, yes, yes mentality, and we have a hard time saying no because we think we're just going to like not have business anymore. If we say no, like we don't want to say no, right? We need all the money we can get, but we need the right money. So at the end of the day, you want to be the guy doing leaf job after leaf job after leaf job. That's making that profit, versus the guy that's doing a whole bunch of random stuff on one house, thinking that they're making their customer happy. But they might not be doing the best job. You're figuring things out as you go. You're spending money on stuff you didn't have and you might not ever use again. And it's just a mess. So I kind of went through that myself. And I think a lot of people do. And I always kind of talk about this and preach the whole, stick to certain services, find a niche. This way it makes it easier for you to price correctly, makes you easier to scale that. It's just, and you most likely, hopefully it's something you enjoy doing and not doing all this miscellaneous stuff. So I had to quickly learn that, not to do all these different things and focus on what they're really like. I like everything grass. Like when I was a homeowner, I love mowing lawns. I love treating lawns. I don't love cleaning leaves, but I mean, it's doable. It's fine. It's part of the job. Keep the grass looking nice, and it keeps the work going into the fall and the winter. So those are like the key things that, aerating and seeding. I mean, I don't necessarily like that either, but I like what it does for the lawn. And if you have the right equipment, it's not as bad. If you have something that's better, it's not going to drag you around the yard. I mean, there's so much better equipment nowadays. I have a stand-on aerator now. I mean, you can invest in the right equipment that's not going to break you doing this service. Aerating can be very painful and exhausting if you don't have the right equipment and you don't know what you're doing. So invest in the right stuff, and then it won't be as bad. So I can just focus on 100% treating people's lawns from start to finish. Like, oh, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't treat yards. You have to get this guy. Like, no, I do it all 100%. But I'm not going to do your landscaping. I'm not going to clean your gutters. I'm not going to fix your roof. I'm not going to do your taxes. Like, that's just not my thing. But I know plenty of people over the years. I've accumulated some contacts that I've networked with that I can refer those people. Like, yeah, this guy can do all this landscaping for you, or this guy can paint your house, or I know this person can power wash your house. Like, here's some contacts, like, so that I'm not stuck saying no, feeling bad saying no, but also not saying yes and putting myself in a crazy situation. So that's always something that I have a tough time dealing with to this day. Still, it's hard to say no, right? I mean, sometimes you get overwhelmed with certain things and work, and people want to throw money at you, but you got to really make sure you stay focused. Like, is that the right money, the right services, and all that? I mean, by all means, add on services, when it's the right time. But I think Jonathan has said this best. Start with your niche, right? Start with one or two key services, and crush those services. And then you can add, it's easier to add those things on later than to be a jack of all trades, master of none, because now you're just all over the place. You don't know what your margins are. Pricing might be off, time might be off. Heaven forbid you have employees. Your payroll is probably off the chain because you don't even know what's going on, how you're scheduling, how long it's going to take this job or that job. It's just a mess. So that was something else I also try to focus on too, was go through all these growing pains by myself before I started hiring people. So I can kind of have a good roadmap, already set in place, and a foundation, so that when I start hiring people, I know exactly what I'm offering for how much and so on. So that's kind of those trials and tribulations that I went through in the early years, and it's still tough sometimes to this day to say no and navigate some of that stuff.
So, what are your goals for the future? I know everything is kind of weird right now, and I know a lot of people's goals were really thrown off by shutdowns and stuff. But all of that, like, sort of going into our rearview mirror, what are your goals for the future right now?
Well, my goals haven't changed. Fortunately, in Virginia, we weren't, or at least just, I guess maybe my clientele wasn't affected as much. I mean, I don't, I know just in general though, a lot of people, a lot of other companies in the area, and like mulch yards and nurseries. I mean, everything's been exploding. Like, there's certain things that certain businesses that really have taken a huge boost in this kind of situation, while others took a huge hit, unfortunately. So there was kind of like a really extreme spike in two different directions. Like, anything outdoors seemed to have exploded, right? Like, bike shops couldn't keep bikes in stock, and you know anything with a trail or a path was just always, like, loaded. There was no parking spots. People were always out and about doing stuff, and all that kind of stuff. And the same thing goes for landscaping. People were home. People are home. We're home. They're like, man, looks like garbage. Can we get this fixed? Can we get some fresh mulch put down? Can we get rid of these bushes, or can we plant some new bushes? Or, man, our lawn is a mess. Can we get someone to really get this back in shape, and all that stuff? So my business, like, exploded, and a lot of other people in my area's business exploded. It was kind of hard to keep up with the demand. I mean, it was kind of weird in the very beginning, like in March when this all happened. It seemed kind of scary because I had one customer say, hey, we're going to have to, a couple customers say, we're going to need to postpone services. And one customer said, can you not mow our backyard? Like, there's all kinds of random stuff going on, different people's perspectives of this whole thing. And I was like, oh, this is getting weird. Is this how it's going to be now? And I was getting a little nervous, and I just hired some people, and I was like, oh man, I'm watching Jonathan's videos and black swan events, and don't, like, freak out. And this is, if you play it, if you do it right, and plan properly, this could be a really good moment for you and your business. And I'm like, yeah, I know he's told me that before, and I know that's the deal. And but sometimes when you're in the thick of it, it's hard, to keep that going strong. But as soon as April hit, it was game over. Like, my phone, emails, Facebook messages, everything was just blowing up nonstop, like it always normally is, but even more.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, well, all right, and I just kept growing. So I've had 5-year plans. So my first 5 years, so we're going into my sixth full-time season that we're in now. So when I got to year 5, the plan was to have employees, which is what I did. So I was able to hire employees, and then the next 5 years is to build that first crew, and then have a second, like strengthen that first crew, and then get to a second crew, I guess, by year 10, the next 5 years. So that's where I'm in the process of now, is trying to keep a strong first crew, which means having a crew leader, which I still haven't found necessarily full time anyway. I'm basically the crew leader. So, getting through past that, and then working on the second crew. So that's kind of my goals. And my goal from day one, year one, was always, like, when I thought about like what kind of business I wanted, I always thought that I wanted to have like a 2 crew company. I felt like that was a good middle ground. I don't want necessarily $1 million company. I feel like I could have a nice sustainable business, with 2 crews. They could help each other when they're in a pinch. There's plenty of employees to mix and match if I need to, and I don't have to be working in the job, in the field all day, every day. I can be working on the business and being with family and side ventures, YouTube, social media, all that other good stuff that's come about, all the different side ventures, while, my lawn care business is still doing its thing, and the crew leaders are running their crews and they're doing their thing. And I'm there more for support than anything else. And obviously customer service, and still getting sales, and, getting more quotes and stuff like that to keep the business, keep feeding the business, keep the 2 crews busy. But again, not doing all the work constantly. That's always been my goal. So, which I know is a lot of people's goal, but that's mine specific. I'm not trying to grow like Marvin wants to just keep going. He's got a certain $1 million, however many millions he said he wants to make. And some people have that, and some people just want to stay solo forever. Everyone's got their own thing, but I never intended to stay solo forever. I never wanted to stay solo forever. While it's fun to some extent, it's just not sustainable for me. It's not what I want. I want to actually be a leader again, and run a business, my own business, and have a team. That's something I always enjoyed. There's pros and cons, obviously. You have your headaches, but that was the part of retail management that I enjoyed, was the leadership aspect. Having a team and leading that team, whatever it was, whether it was, just for the day's things, ringing people up, do whatever, all that stuff, keeping the store clean, helping people, or if we had to re-merchandise the store, or whatever it was, receiving a shipment of a truck shipment, we have to do, hundreds of boxes, open them up and put everything out, like whatever the project was. I always enjoyed being that team leader, or helping another team leader lead that team. I was a leader of leaders too at certain points. So I enjoyed just leading in general. So by myself, I never really had as much fun leading myself.
And not as many followers to lead when it's just you.
Exactly. So, and sometimes I get distracted. I'm not the fastest worker in the world, but I can definitely help lead people. So, I mean, I know what my strengths are, and all that. So I know I'm not the best trimmer, edger, and mower, but I know I can lead the best trimmer, edger, and mower. So that's where my strengths are. So I just need to keep finding those people, keep getting the work, and keep growing from there. So that's kind of my goals from here and what I've been working on.
Well, we'll check back in before 4 seasons from now to see your progress toward those goals.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing your story with the Lawn Care Millionaire subscribers on YouTube, the Profit Roadmap listeners on the podcast there.
Yeah, for sure.
Where, just to make sure that if people don't know who you are and they want to find you now because they've heard your story, where should they be following you?
On everything, basically, right? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, obviously. I'm on Twitter and some of these other things, Snapchat and all that, but I'm not really that active on those things anymore. But the biggest thing is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, the 3 big ones that I think everyone pretty much is familiar with. And everything is LawnCareRookie, or LCR, short. LCR is abbreviated for LawnCareRookie, but either one of those 2 things will bring up all my stuff. So
Yeah, we will have links in the show notes and the description to where you can find Naylor. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We will see you next time.